Thank you guys for returning. I really appreciate it. Today, I am so happy to have two very exciting and energetic, fun people with us. And we're going to talk about a brand new program that is just starting, and it's in its trial phase right now. I'd like to welcome Danielle. See, I told you I was going to screw it up. I have a complex when I know like I'm going to mess something up. It always happens. So Danielle Cook, say it.
You got it.
Oh, yay. And Simon Matthews. It's actually Simon Matthews, but and they, oh God, this is going to be so much fun. They both are involved in this program called First in Wellness. So thank you guys for coming.
Our pleasure.
Pleasure.
And I will let you guys figure out who gets to go first, but I want both of you to tell us briefly about yourselves and some of your background.
Simon, go first. I know you just pointed at me.
I'll drop myself in it. So, hello. Thanks, Erin. I'm all the way over in Australia right now, which is where I live, where I've always lived. I am in fact Australian. I live on the east coast, about an hour north of Sydney, which many people are familiar with. I do live on the coast. I'm quite close to the beach. Also close to national parks. So I do live in a very lovely part of the world, and I'm very fortunate to do that. So I'm a psychologist by profession. I've been a psychologist for nearly 25 years. Originally, so back in the day when I first started working as a psychologist, and I had done some other things before that. I was almost going to have a career in radio back in the day, but changed direction and didn't do that. Ended up doing the work that I'm doing now, and all the way back then I did a lot of work in EAP, or what we might now call EFAP, with first responders, in particular police and paramedics initially, then the fire service later, and then I started doing a lot of work with military veterans too. So I still do work with work out here with military veterans, and my first responder work now is all with Danielle and First in Wellness. And then, over the years of being a psychologist, I started moving more from a focus on treating into a focus on thinking about what can we do to prevent, what can we do to help people to build the resources that they need to be able to thrive really well in their daily lives, and minimize the likelihood even that they're going to experience kind of adverse effects on their mental health.
That's awesome. And I'm so happy that you are here and that you can share your wealth of knowledge. I appreciate it so much. Danielle, what about you?
Thanks, Erin.
Yeah. Thanks for having us on, Erin. We're excited to be here and share what we're doing and learn a little bit more from you. You and I had a really great conversation last week about kind of your journey, or part of your journey anyway. And we talked a little bit about my journey as well, and I'll share some of it today. But I'm a dietitian. I'm originally from Massachusetts, from the East Coast, but now I live out in Santa Cruz, California, and been fortunate to live in kind of vacation spots my whole life. I don't know how I've pulled that off, but I'm happy about it. I have worked in all different parts of the nutrition world. I started off in hospitals doing more clinical work. I specialized in tube feedings and TPN, so kind of the nutrition support part of hospital work. And then I went off and worked in an infusion center, really specializing in nutrition support. From there, I went into diabetes education, became a certified diabetes educator, and did that. And then through some health challenges of my own, which I'll go into afterwards, I segued into what's called functional medicine. And that's kind of a root cause type of medicine, where you're looking for the root cause versus treating the symptom. So then let's see. I've worked in a couple different clinics. I did some work with endometriosis at a women's clinic. And I didn't even know what endometriosis was when I started working there and when I applied for the job. And somehow they hired me. And then I learned a whole lot about it. Really enjoyed that work and working with those women. And then from there, I went to a clinic called California Center for Functional Medicine and worked with Chris Kresser and his team. And from there, I was introduced to health and wellness coaching. I was asked to go take a course, and I went, well, why do I need to learn how to coach? I can just tell people what to do. And boy, was my world blown open. It was kind of a big eye opener to me, and learning, why a lot of people weren't doing what I told them to do when they came in for a consultation and a session for me, and learning more about kind of the human condition and what makes us tick and why we do what we do. And so that was a massive growth opportunity for me, both professionally as well as personally. Just my interrelations with people in my life, friends, family, my husband, and that whole skill of listening was a new one for me. I come from a family where everyone interrupts one another, and so.
So do we all, Danielle. So do we all.
And I'll tell you about it afterwards. But in my work with California Center for Functional Medicine, that's where I was kind of introduced to the first responder world and working with them with health and wellness programs.
Well, that's a perfect segue into my next question, Danielle, is what made both of you want to get into the world of working and helping first responders? Who wants to go first? It's Simon, it's your turn.
Oh, it's my turn. Okay, all right. So I'd had this introduction to first responder work, but very much from the perspective of crisis intervention. So back in the early and mid 90s, I was doing a lot of critical incident stress debriefing work with first responders. Which was really growing in popularity, particularly out here in Australia at that time. Through the course of that was I guess the development of that perspective for me on wanting to do more than have the proverbial ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, but do something to support people to maintain good health and well-being. And then my work with first responders kind of, I guess, transformed in some ways into work with military veterans, and there was a bit of a so one tapered off as the other picked up, and then I focused strongly on military work with military veterans, among other things, for a number of years. And then Danielle and I met actually in Naples, Florida, a couple of years ago, and a couple of years ago? No, 1 year ago. Feels
like forever.
Feels like we've known each other forever.
This feels like the fifth year of March 2020. It's like we never got out of it, and now we're back again.
So we met over there doing an advanced coaching program together, and as an aside, the organisation that we both did our training with is called Well Coaches, and my other main role out here is being CEO of Well Coaches in Australia, and now in Singapore as well. So out here, another big element of my work is training people in the skills of health coaching. Yeah, look, I just developed this really strong conviction over time that regardless of who you are, regardless of what you do, health and wellness sits at the center, or sits at the heart of most things that we do. So even when we talk about things like executive coaching, I've not done any executive coaching yet which hasn't involved health and wellness. Somehow health and wellness sits at the center of everything, and so that's really become quite a focal point for me, particularly in these last I would say 8 to 10 years of my professional work.
Very nice. And Danielle, what about you?
Well, I guess I'll just back up a little bit and then kind of take you through my journey into what I'm doing now. So I was, very healthy, no health problems, athlete, did kind of whatever I wanted with my body as far as like athletics and travel and whatnot. And then while I was traveling in Ecuador, when I was 32, I had about 20 tiny little ticks on me about the size of a pin. I got real sick a few days later, losing consciousness. And then I was okay. And until about 6 or 8 months later, I was under a lot of stress. I was working 3 different jobs, wasn't sleeping much. I was dating a new guy and, trying to stay up with him till 11 o'clock and getting up and going to the gym at 5 in the morning. And then, working all day at one job and then going and teaching at the university at night. And about 4 months into that, I started, noticing things. I started noticing, aches and pains, a lot of digestive issues. And my health just went downhill from there until I was just so sick I could barely take a walk around the neighborhood. Then fast forward several years later, I found out I had Lyme disease, and it was a long journey back to getting healthy again. And but in that journey, I found what's called functional medicine. I went to a practitioner, and it was the first person that really listened to me and listened to my symptoms and what I was feeling, and didn't just hand me a medication. And so from there, I knew that I wanted to help people not have to suffer like I had, and that I wanted to help people maintain their health, and if something had happened, help them regain their health. And so I went through in different roles in the functional medicine world, and then I was working with California Center for Functional Medicine, and we were asked to do a program for Berkeley Fire Department. And I was thought, oh well, this is different, this will be fun. And as I worked with firefighters, heard their stories, and did research for the program, especially in the areas of cancer risk reduction, cardiovascular disease, mental health, it became a kind of very obvious that they could easily lose their health in one way or another. Firefighting is not it's a dangerous job. And I think fighting the fires is probably the least dangerous part of the job. And so I wanted to do something to help these firefighters to protect their own health and wellness. And so I enjoyed doing the program that I was working on with CCFM, but there were different parts of the program, such as coaching, and some other elements of the program that I really wanted to be in the program. And so I went off and started my own. And one of the reasons I thought coaching was so important was, we can give people information. We can tell them what to do or what they should do, or make suggestions, or however you want to put it. But people need to find their own whys. And I really wanted to have an element of the program, or actually it's become kind of the main focus of our program, kind of the backbone of our program, to give some information and then help people decide what's important to them and then what they want to do with it. And maybe it's nothing, and that's okay. But I really wanted to make it so that we were joining and being partners and helping people in their health and wellness journey, and not just throwing a bunch of information at them and hoping something was going to stick. And so that's how First in Wellness was born. I had been doing a program with Santa Clara Fire Department, which is another fire department we worked with, and Mike Salemi did the fitness part of that program. And I just loved working with Mike. I loved his enthusiasm. He's definitely got an infectious personality where he just, I just want to jump in and start exercising when I'm around him. He's very motivating and positive, and just an amazing human being. And so, when I decided, I'm I'm going to try to provide a program that I think is going to be that's going to be, I keep thinking the word usable, but a program that firefighters, first responders can really relate to, and that's comprehensive. And so my first thought was, okay, well, we want to have a fitness part of that program. And so Mike and I talked, and that's how First in Wellness was born. And then Simon told you that, a few months later, I met Simon, and again, another infectious personality, and you'll hear it today. And I just thought, oh, wow, I want him to be involved with the coaching for sure. And so Simon has become the director of coaching for First in Wellness, and running that part of the program.
That's awesome. And Simon, it seems like you have so much experience with coaching. So that seems like it's such a great fit. And chance meeting that you guys were bump into each other in Florida of all places, right?
Yeah. I know, right? Yeah, absolutely. And I've got to say, when Danielle was talking about First in Wellness at that time, although I don't recall you calling it First in Wellness, Danielle, but you were certainly talking about the program. And at even back then, before Danielle approached me and asked if I'd be involved, I was already thinking, oh, this is a really cool program. And one of the things that I really love about it, Erin, is that the coaching element is native to the program. So this is the First in Wellness program is not like it's not a tick and flick. It's not one of those things that we've all seen and we've all probably done as well, where you sign up, you pay your money, you press play on the video, and you go and do something else, and the video runs through it, and then it says, yeah, you've watched that video, move on to the next stage. And then eventually you do that enough times and you get your completion certificate. So with very little engagement. And so in this First in Wellness program, the coaching's not an add-on. It's not an optional element. It's not an afterthought. The whole program was built with coaching in mind. And so it's central to what goes on, and it's a really powerful way of engaging the participants in learning to observe themselves, learning to connect with their own experiences, and then developing their own ideas of where they want to go, what they want to do, how they really want their lives to be with respect to their health and wellness. And we'll come to this later, I'm sure, but we're already seeing in our pilot program, we're already seeing just a few weeks in evidence of the impact of that the coaching is having.
Wow, that's exciting. So I can't wait any longer to find out how the program works and what it actually is, because you guys are teasing it so much. I'm like, I want in. Sign me up. Let's go. Danielle, do you want to tell us, like, how does it work and what exactly it is right now?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so it's a online program. We're hoping as COVID restrictions start to ease, that we can go into the program, and I'm into the stations and do a kickoff and a wrap up on site. But right now, with COVID, it's 100% online. So if we could go in, we would do a kickoff on site, and then the meat of the program would be online, and then we do a wrap up on site again, and I'll high five. So what it is, it's a 90-day program that lasts 90 consecutive days. It is split into two different parts, basically. So there's a fitness portion of it, which we use Kettlebell Lifestyle, which Mike Salemi has created. And then there's a lifestyle portion of it. And that's split into 3 30-day modules. The first module is nutrition. The second is stress modulation and mental agility. And then the third is restorative sleep. And each module kind of has the same setup. The first week they watch some videos. This is where we trickle in some information, some of the science behind, why eat this, and maybe reduce your consumption of this other food. How to be kind of a little budding nutrition expert, and then some ideas for some things they can play around with their nutrition. At the end of that first week, then they have a coaching session. It's a group coaching session, and group number varies depending on the station, on the department, and on their shift schedule and who's in the program. And we've designed it as a group coaching session for a couple of reasons. One, just, financially for the department, it makes sense. But more importantly, because in the fire service, that group and your crew and that kind of family is so important. We wanted to keep that camaraderie and also just that social support, and really build upon that. And so that people can help one another go through this program, can support one another as they're trying out different lifestyle changes. And this is some of the feedback I've gotten from other departments that I've worked with is, wow, I wish I could have gone through a program like this with my entire crew so that we're all doing the same thing and I'm not kind of the oddball and they're bringing in their lunch. So yeah. And so then after they meet with the coach for that first session, that first coaching session, then they go off for 2 weeks on their own to try something out. So to experiment with some of the things they may have learned in some of those videos in that first week, or maybe it's something else that is really important to them that they want to work on. Maybe it's spending more time with their son, or growing a stronger connection with their wife, or I don't know, they want to get better at swimming. Whatever it is, then we help them to develop a goal around that. Then they go out for 2 weeks, experiment with that. And then somewhere around week 3.5, we get back together. We have another coaching session. We kind of do a little debriefing on their experience with working on that goal. And then we, talk about, any next steps or things they might want to continue, or maybe what might be next. And then each module kind of repeats in that same format, where we trickle in the information, coaching, goal setting, experiment with that goal, and then get back together and talk about it. There's one other component I think that's worth mentioning in this program, and that's some technology that we use. We use something called an Oura ring. It's a tracking device. It's a ring that you obviously wear in your finger, and and I think Oura is unique. It's similar to the Fitbit, but it's a bit more sophisticated. It's a bit more accurate because it's on the digital pulse versus on your wrist. And as far as accuracy and tracking heart rate, and the data that we're looking for and that we are tracking and concentrating on this program is some of the data that's gathered at night while they're sleeping. And those are things like resting heart rate, their sleep, what their sleep quality is like. It measures how much total sleep they have, how much awake time they have during the night, how much light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep. So there's an algorithm, but what we tell them is we're looking for patterns and how different lifestyle choices, like if they're drinking, if they're stressed, if they exercised hard that day, how is that affecting their sleep quality? And then it also tracks something called heart rate variability, or HRV. I don't know if you've heard that term, Erin.
I have. Sorry, I was taking a drink.
No, it's okay.
I am a little bit familiar with it. I have a different device called a Whoop, but I have been eyeing that ring for a while. So you might just kind of push me over the edge. So tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's funny, the Whoop, and I think I told you this before, we considered using Whoop in this program, and then we decided on using Oura instead. But so HRV, or heart rate variability, is the time between, or the duration between each heartbeat. So every time your heart beats, the time between each heartbeat is going to be a little bit different in the amount of time. And we want to have a lot of variability in how much time we have between heartbeats. And heart rate variability is a really good indicator of how balanced your autonomic nervous system is. And your autonomic nervous system is made up of two branches. So your sympathetic and your parasympathetic. And your sympathetic is your fight or flight. Everyone's heard of that. And that's always telling your heart to speed up, beat faster, beat faster, beat faster. Your parasympathetic, that other side of the branch, is your rest and digest. So we want that part of our nervous system to be really active when we're sleeping, when we're eating a meal, we don't want to be all stressed out. And so that's telling your heart rate to slow down, slow down, slow down. And the more balanced that autonomic nervous system is, the more variability you're going to have between heartbeats, and the higher your HRV is. And a higher HRV has been associated with better health, and just a better stress response. So when you are under stress, your body's ability to get back to that baseline, or just back to that relaxed state, it's much more equipped to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. So that's the Oura Ring. It's also measuring things like respiratory rate and body temperature, which are other things you can look at that might indicate that your body's under stress. So for example, Oura is being used with UCSF for a COVID study. And in the preliminary first kind of phase of the study, and I'm involved in this study, they found, I think it was like 65% of the time it was able to predict if you were going to get COVID 3 days before, on an average of 3 days before you had any symptoms, which is pretty phenomenal. So, and I've actually had one of the guys in the program that got the flu, and he was kind of like, yeah, I'll wear this stupid ring beforehand. And then he got sick, and he called me a couple of days later, and he's like, I cannot believe the data I got out of this ring. This was fascinating. And, his HRV went way down, his resting heart rate went up, his body temperature spiked, his respiratory rate went up. And so all these indicators that your body's under stress.
That's interesting. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but because we had been talking about heart rate variability and the difference between devices when I talked to you first.
Yeah.
So my recovery had gone way down. Like I knew I was sleeping okay, but it wasn't restful sleep, but there was no reason for it. I was drinking enough water, was trying to go to bed early enough. I wasn't super stressed out, no alcohol, no other medications that I'm not used to. I got the flu on Monday. And so my body kind of gave the technology signals that, hey, something's up. And then I was so sick starting Monday, and then Tuesday it kicked my butt. And, today I'm feeling much better, but it's incredible how we can utilize this technology to figure out how stressed we are, but also, predict that we're going to get sick.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear you got sick, but I'm glad to hear you're feeling better.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And it sounds like your Whoop is doing the job. You got some really useful information.
I would prefer to have the temperature gauge like the Oura Ring, but the Whoop also broadcasts my heart rate to different devices, so like workout equipment. So that's the only thing that's really keeping me with it. But I kind of like the idea of the Oura Ring too. So
yeah, the Oura Ring isn't great at it doesn't track heart rate when you're moving. Mm-hmm. And so it's as far as like a tracker for your athletics and your workouts, it's not I don't think, in my opinion, it's only got an accelerometer, which is just measuring how much your hands moving. So yeah, it's the Oura Ring is great, and one of the reasons we use it, and Whoop, same thing, is just one is just as a little tap on the shoulder, like, hey, let's get to know your body better and see how different things are affecting you and your physiology. And, one thing I think with first responders in general, and, and firefighters specifically, just that's the population we're working with right now, is they're really good at ignoring when things don't feel good and their body doesn't feel right, because they kind of have to push through a lot, sleep deprivation and being really uncomfortable in physical situations when they're on the job, at a structure fire, or, we had I'm in Santa Cruz. We had forest fires right up the street this summer. And, so there's a lot of discomfort that they're dealing with on their jobs all the time that they have to kind of push aside to be able to do their jobs. And so, using an Oura Ring or another tracker and just kind of tuning into this data that's coming out of this ring or your Whoop on your wrist, and saying, well, how does that align with how I'm feeling? And just taking a moment to just kind of be in the present and check it, do it, a little check-in on your body is.
I think that really aligns too with trying to get them in the mindset of checking in with their physical body, but also with their mental health too, because first responders are really good at disassociating themselves from situations. And so you can find yourself disassociating with your body because that's how you push through those hard situations.
Yeah, and that's a tool that's used as well. You know, we were in a coaching meeting with a couple of our first responders that are in our pilot program right now, and that's a tool that they were taught too, to dissociate. You know, after a traumatic event, you know, to kind of just be able to step away. So, yeah. So we're just, you know, Simon, you might have more to say on this, and then I'll talk about Eversleep afterwards. But yeah.
I was just in relation to the dissociation point, which is interesting, of course. You know, with my background as a psychologist, one of the things that came through really strongly in our coaching session was these guys didn't actually like this as a technique. They'd been taught it, but just didn't wash. So you know, we need to find not better ways, but simply useful ways of helping first responders to both genuinely connect with their experience, good or bad, whatever their experience might be, and for first responders, it's often this kind of mixed bag. You know, you go to an incident, and on the one hand, you can be feeling simultaneously proud of yourself for what you've done. You can be feeling joyful, you know, that a colleague has done something really amazing, and at the same time, you can be feeling terrible grief or sadness over something that's happened there. So it's this massive mixed bag, and the analogy I often have in my mind is it's like having your entree, your main, your dessert, your drinks, and your your bourbon shot after, all in one go, and then expecting your stomach to try and sort of sort all that out. So we need to find ways of supporting people to be real about what they're experiencing, and also to be able to kind of process that in a way that they can then, you know, keep moving forward with their lives.
Yeah. And Simon, that brings up a good point, and that's one of the things we try to do in our program. And our program is not a treatment program. Our program is a preventative program to give people skills and to be able to go through, you know, traumatic experiences and come out on the other side as strong or stronger. And so our idea is, and what we try to do, and not just our kind of building our psychological resilience module, but in all the modules, we're trying to provide a toolkit, because not every tool is going to be the perfect tool for every person. We're all very unique, and you know, past experiences, what we prefer, what that experience was, and so that tool might be different depending on different experiences. So we're trying to provide a toolkit where they can, you know, experiment with a couple things and find out what might work for them, and so they can have these tools at their ready when they need them.
And do you find that the first responders you're working with are, what's the word I'm looking for? Are they open and willing to sharing their experiences in a group setting, or is there some resistance because, you know, I'm struggling with drinking too much alcohol, or I just really don't feel like working out, but I don't want my buddies to know that I didn't work out for a week? How does that play into everything?
I'm going to say, I mean, you jump in too, Danielle. But,
yeah, I will too. Yeah.
I'm going to say that I have been, and you know, I've been, as I said earlier, I've been working with first responder groups, you know, way back into the mid 90s. And here's the thing that I observed, and I'm actually just putting this together now as you ask this question, Erin. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you asking it, because it's really helping me formulate something in my mind. If I take myself 25 years back to the first responder work I was doing, which was largely critical incident stress debriefing and things like that, put people in a room, you know, they've all attended the same incident, and, you know, trying to have people share anything about what they might have experienced was literally like pulling teeth, and pulling big, strong teeth too. You just wouldn't get any movement at all. Now that's probably also a function of the time. 25 years ago, we weren't at the place we are now in thinking about health and well-being for anyone, let alone first responders. But here's the thing I've observed about our coaching sessions. I have been blown away by the openness that people have to share their experiences, positive and negative, or I'm going to say perceived positive and negative on their part. I'm not judging whether those experiences are positive or negative, but people have been extraordinarily open in sharing what they're doing, what's working for them, what some of their struggles are, what they've had some success with, what they're really enjoying, what they're finding useful in a group setting. Sitting in a room with 3 or 4 or 6 or 8 of their colleagues, guys that they go and stand next to if they're fighting a fire. And this is partly because of what Danielle and I would call the coach approach. In other words, the thing that makes coaching different from a lot of other interventions or styles of communicating that you might use. So it's partly to do with that coach approach, but it also has this, I think, really very powerful effect of normalizing those struggles among that group. So people in a group setting, people are hearing other people saying, oh, I'm having some success with this and I'm struggling with that. And that helps them say to themselves, oh, okay, I've been struggling with that too, so I'm not going to beat up on myself so much about that particular part of it. So that's been, for me, this has been, as you know, we're partway through the pilot, but for me, this has been the standout kind of learning so far. That if you can create a safe environment in which people can feel respected, if they feel like there's an opportunity to look forward and grow rather than to look backwards and try and repair something, when you put all those things in place, people love it. People love it.
Yeah, and I would agree with everything you just said, Simon, and just add that one of the things with coaching is, and with this program, like I said before, it's not a treatment program, so we're not really rehashing struggles with alcohol or other substances or traumatic critical incidents that they've lived through. We're talking more, and I know Simon used this word already, but a growth mindset. And so we're going into it and looking at, experiences that maybe they have had or are having right now. And, what's going well, what strengths are they using or have used in the past to have an outcome that they wanted. And so we're not really focusing on the bad and the scary, and we're looking more to help them to think about what's the potential, what are the possibilities, what could be. And so not to disregard any stuff that's the scary, the ugly, those can come up, and we welcome that. But it's not something we're trying to dig out of them. We're really focused on health and wellness, both physical and psychological.
And what I love about this, and the feeling that I get from it, is that if you get to people early enough, you get them used to being coached. So it's like you're playing a sport and you're used to being coached and being told how to do something, the best practices and everything. But when you put somebody in front of, say, a psychologist or a therapist, a counselor, there's that stigma and that label attached to it. So if you're getting to people early enough in their career and you get them conditioned to coaching, if they ever do need to seek therapy or get some other type of mental health help, they're not going to be so resistant to it because they were professionally coached, right? The same thing is like someone who's later in their career. it's easier to say, I have a meeting with my executive coach than saying I have counseling today.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the things too is just talking about kind of that spectrum of emotions that we all experience. You know, the emotions that we tend to label as bad emotions, that we might not want to talk about, like anger and sadness and sorrow and fear, and then the good emotions like, you know, happiness and excitement, and, you know, all the good, you know, the good labeled emotions, and just letting them know that they're, all those emotions are important. You know, it's, our body is telling us something, and that's what emotions are there for. And just giving them the opportunity and the room to listen, and just, and also the skill set to have the ability to be able to listen, and not just shut those things out because maybe, you know, they're
Mm.
you know, I shouldn't be experiencing sadness or fear, you know, as a big, you know, 250-pound, 6'3" burly man. Those aren't okay. And so, and just, you know, starting that conversation, and we're not expecting things to change through, you know, we have 6 coaching sessions in the program, but there's that conversation that started, and maybe it's planting a seed.
Mhm. So because it is a, what is it, a trial launch or pilot program, right?
Mhm.
What is the expected outcome? What are you expecting to happen when everything is said and done?
I mean, I told my husband, I said, you know, if 50% of the people actively go through the program, I'll be really happy. It's definitely exceeded that so far. People seem to be really liking different aspects of the program. We've just finished up the nutrition module. And I was actually quite surprised at some of the feedback I have gotten already. You know, people, crews, you know, going through and doing a no sugar challenge for 2 weeks, and trying to reduce their sugar intake. People starting to pay attention to their sleep and different things that they might do at night that may alter their sleep. And typically they've mentioned for the worst, like, oh, if I drink or if I eat late at night, my sleep's not as good. I notice I don't have as much deep and REM sleep, and I'm more tired in the morning, I've noticed, and that kind of correlates with my data. Other things we've noticed are, you know, weight loss, people being able, you know, one woman told me that, you know, she can run again. She hasn't been able to run in a long time. She's struggling with her weight. She's losing weight. And you know, we have one gentleman that's lost, you know, 20 pounds. He's doing it with his son. He's lost like 15 pounds. Actually, his whole family's doing it. And it was interesting because, and I've heard this a couple times from a couple different people, is, you know, I knew it was bad to eat, or unhealthy to eat sugar. My wife's telling me all the time, but you broke it down really simply in the science of it, in the why. And then it made sense to me. And then it was a choice that I wanted to make. And so
Mm.
I think giving, again, the knowledge, and then letting them kind of just simmer with that and think about, you know, what's meaningful for them, and then having the follow-up coaching sessions so they can kind of explore some of those things that were either in the videos or just whatever is going on in their everyday life.
Mm.
So
Mm.
those are kind of the big things I've gotten out of it. We have one gentleman that, you know, I kind of mentioned the Eversleep, but basically it's a device that is looking at your quality of sleep. It's looking at O2 sats and breathing interruptions, and you know, movement and snoring and all sorts of things. But we have one gentleman he's wearing a CPAP, and we looked at his data, and you know, there were a lot of breathing events as O2 sats were going down into the 70s. And you know, so I had a conversation with him and said, you know, just based on your data, it might be a good idea to go and talk to your doctor and maybe do a sleep study. And he said, oh, well, I've been wearing, and we knew he was wearing a CPAP, but he said, I've been wearing a CPAP for 18 months. I got the CPAP and I never had a follow-up. And I was wondering if it wasn't working, because sometimes I feel like it's making my breathing worse. And so so he's going to go back and see his doctor and get refitted. And so, I mean, things like that. And this is someone that's, been struggling with their weight and fatigue and all sorts of things that if you're not sleeping, it's going to be really hard to lose weight and feel good. And so that's, some of the feedback we've gotten. So as far as, the end of the program, wow, if people have made one lifestyle change that it's improved their health, that's a massive win. And that's, what we'd like to see. And then they have the knowledge. And again, just, really, if they just walk out with a toolkit of different things they can use as needed. Okay, this isn't working. I'm going to try this. Oh, this is really working. I'm going to keep doing this. Then that would be fantastic.
And I'm going to add in there, Erin, as someone who's, whose career for the last sort of 25 to 30 years has been built on behavioural change and supporting people to make behavioural changes. One of the most exciting parts of this so far has been something that we didn't even plan for, and Danielle just mentioned it a couple of minutes ago, and that's that one of the guys has started doing this with his son. And now other members of the family are joining in as well. So it wasn't our intention in doing this that people would involve their family members, but from a long-term sustainable behavioural change perspective, this is a dream come true. This is a person who is literally creating his own support network or own support bubble, and the likelihood, therefore, that he's going to be able to sustain these changes has just gone up dramatically, because now there's other people in his immediate circle doing it. And the likelihood that in turn is going to become if you like, a mutually reinforcing kind of cycle is also very, very strong. So outcomes like that, while we didn't necessarily plan for them, they're really delightful outcomes to see.
That's so exciting. I can't even think about the impacts of the little tentacles that will come out of this project. That's so cool. And Danielle, I am fascinated by that sleep device that you were talking about. So if you could tell us where we could find maybe like the Oura Ring and the sleep device, and I can post it, that way people who are interested can find it.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So they both have a website. I think it's just Oura. Is it just auraring.com, and then it's geteversleep.com?
Yeah,
I believe. Yeah, Aaron, I'll make sure and I can send those to you. And it looks like Simon's looking them up right now, and he'll stick them in the chat.
Awesome.
I can always count on Simon to look stuff up and put it in the chat.
Is he our master Googler?
Oh my God, he's the master. And it's funny, whenever Simon meets someone new, he's like, okay, where do you live? What's your address? And they'll look him up on Google. Oh, okay, I see where you are. And I think every new person, except James that we talked to today, he always asks that, like, where are you? So he's really, he really gets to know people, and he likes his Google. So yeah.
Well, before you jumped on the call, Danielle, yeah, Erin and I had a great conversation about Reno, Nevada, and air races and.
That is, you pegged him. That is literally the first thing he asked me.
I love it.
Yes. And then I was happy to just verbally spew everything because like I have an oversharing problem. I like to talk. Maybe that's why I'm doing this.
Yeah.
So you're just doing firefighters right now in your pilot program, but are you guys considering or planning on doing any other branches of public safety?
Yeah, so kind of next step is, right now we just have a department-wide program. We'll launch our individual program for firefighters that maybe their department isn't signing up and they'd like to just do the program on their own. It'll be a little bit different as far as, the structure of the coaching and things like that, but it'll be very similar. And then we're going to start working on our police program. And then we'd like to do EMT and dispatcher as well.
Hold on. I got to get the cat out of the bag.
The other element that we want to introduce to Erin is something for partners, spouses, and family members. Recognizing that first responders don't live in a vacuum, and their family members benefit from greater understanding of the sorts of things that they might be doing, developing their own skills for being able to kind of maintain themselves. So it's one thing, like a first responder can come home having had a really hard and challenging day. Their partner or spouse can come home having had a really great day at work. And so what we want is to be able to support people to recognise that both of those things are okay. Because one person comes home having had a hard or crappy day, that doesn't need to pull down the tone of the whole household. By the same token, the person who's had the fantastic day doesn't need to kind of try and cheer the other person up to make them feel better. And so we want to create a program that supports people to recognise the importance of that diversity of experience and have toolkits for being able to manage that for themselves.
That's awesome. I look forward to seeing that for everybody. What's the time frame do you think on that?
Oh, good question.
What can we do to make it happen faster?
Danielle, I'll let you answer that one.
Well, I'm looking at you because you're creating that program.
So if someone wants to throw a big pile of money at us so we can employ a researcher and a program writer, that will make it happen.
Well, I think
otherwise we'll just plug away through the year.
Yeah. Well, I think some helpful, bits for any program, whether it be the fire program, police, family program, anything that's coming out, dispatchers, is, the more information we have for, what people want in the program, what their needs are, that information is gold, because we want it to be relevant. And we want to make sure that we're spending time providing information that is going to be useful. So I think that, if anyone emails us with stuff or wants to have a conversation, I'll talk to anyone about this stuff, because I'm very passionate about helping first responders and supporting them in their health and wellness. And so, I always tell people, like, I want as much information as you can give me. And, I keep telling the firefighters in this pilot program, I'm like, give me the good feedback and the super shitty feedback you don't think I want to hear. Like, I want that stuff. In fact, that's probably even more useful. So tell me everything you hate about this program. But seriously,
Can I throw in there too, Erin, something we haven't talked about yet, but I think is a really, really important part of First in Wellness as an organisation, and that is that we have a first responder advisory panel. So we've got first responders from across the US and out here in Australia as well. So people who are active firefighters, active first responders. We've probably, I'm off the top of my head, Danielle, I'm going to say between them, there'd be there would have to be, I don't know, like 120, 140 years of collective first responder experience. And so that's the group of people that we look to for some really clear ideas and guidance about what matters to first responders.
Yeah, that's a good point. And also on that panel, and if I missed that you mentioned this, Simon, I apologize, but we do have a police officer and we have a spouse of a firefighter who is also a nurse in the cardiac unit. Her dad was a firefighter. I believe he was a chief or a captain. And so we're really trying to cover all our bases as we start to develop these programs. And I feel like, even the fire department, the fire program is going to be in constant development, because, there's another thing that just came up today that I would like to change on it. So we're constantly, trying to develop and redevelop.
Well, I can tell you from experience that dispatchers want snacks that are healthy, that don't take a whole lot of time to make, and meals that they can eat and type and press a foot pedal with at the same time. Easily swallowable, because of course, when you have a moment to eat, you take a bite and then somebody talks to you or the phone rings and you got to swallow it really fast. It always happens. And then just some movements and exercises, stretching that they can do while they are literally tethered to a computer and cannot move. So I got you on that.
Yeah. And I remember, Erin, in our conversation, you also mentioned, and I was, we were talking about our necks, just being on the computer so much. Yeah.
Yes.
I've never had a neck problem until I started First in Wellness. Now, yeah. And I'm a surfer, and oh God, now surfing those little short boards, I'm getting longer boards now. But just ergonomics and things like that. But that was, that kind of information is gold and really valuable. That helps us to develop things that are going to be valuable to you.
Yeah.
And are your coaches culturally competent in first responder land? Do they have some extra training so that they know kind of more about the lives of first responders, or are they first responders themselves?
Go ahead, Simon.
No, you go, Danielle.
I was just going to say, we don't have any coaches that are first responders, but as our team grows, we would welcome, any first responders that are also health and wellness coaches to reach out to us. We have had training with, actually one of the firefighters on our advisory panel has done some trainings with us for just relevance and, what is a typical day as a firefighter. A lot of us have worked with firefighters or first responders in our careers. So I would say, what would you say, Simon? We're culturally competent, or?
Yeah, absolutely. And at this stage, our coaches, we've hand selected basically people that we already know, because we're confident of their ability to approach a first responder population, not with an expert mindset, not with a, I know everything about health and wellness, you just sit down and listen to me and I'll explain it to you mindset, but a mindset that says, I want to understand your experience. I want to understand what it's like as a first responder. And when we say that, we're not just talking about, problems and challenges, we're talking about victories and successes too. What have you found works for you? What do you already do in your life that you notice really supports your health and well-being, and how can you do more of that, and how can you build on that, and how can you grow from that, and so on. So the key for us in our coaching team is obviously, first of all, that people are certified coaches. So we look to national board certification for that. But secondly, and this is part of any good coach training program as well. But secondly, that people do approach their coaching work with that genuinely open, curious, I want to understand your experience mindset, and that for us that's key.
Mm-hmm.
That validation that the things that they are already doing is great, and that extra support is awesome, because when you're talking about lifestyle changes or doing things differently, you hear a lot about what you're doing wrong, but it's really, really important for someone to highlight the things that you're doing right. So I'm so glad that you guys are doing that, and that's one of your main focuses of the group.
I was
absolutely, yeah, just
kind of chuckling to myself when you said you're doing everything wrong. We just this might be a little tangent, but a non sequitur, as my husband says, I'm full of. But we just recorded our new promo video last weekend. And because of COVID, we couldn't do a live recording in a station with first responders. And so my husband said, well, we're going to do it all with G.I. Joe dolls then. And so we had a professional videographer, producer, whatever he's called, that's done, the stop animation and has done this kind of work and helped us do this. And but one of the parts of the promo video is there's Barbie doll is teaching a wellness course, and on the slide, one of the slides, it says, "You're doing everything wrong."
Oh my God. Will you send that to me when it's done?
Yeah, of course.
That is amazing.
Yeah. And we had a couple of voice auditions. They sent us their auditions for the voiceover for the video. And we weren't crazy about any of them. And last night I was like, oh my God, you know who will have the best voice? He'll be perfect for this. The pastor at one of the local churches used to be a radio host, and he has the best voice, and he's a great storyteller. And so I reached out to him last night. I had done some work for the church and, done a couple presentations for them and stuff on nutrition, and he did it, and he recorded it last night at like midnight, and it's perfect. It's amazing. And so, so it's funny how things come together, and I think it'll be, hopefully it won't totally miss the mark and be offensive. Hopefully it'll be, cause a couple laughs.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a funny, we really struggled because we wanted to redo our really boring promo video that we have right now. And so we were really struggling trying to figure out how we were going to do it with COVID. And so we'll see, but I will send it to you.
That's awesome. And a lot of firefighters, first responders, we have that really weird, sick, twisted sense of humor. So if we are your target audience, I think you're like spot on for that.
Yeah.
So we are running a little bit out of time, but without giving away any secret sauce, are there any tips and tricks that you could give our listeners and our viewers about nutrition, health and wellness, sleep, some quick digestible stuff to leave us with?
Oh, I love that pun.
Yeah,
Huh?
I love it.
Yeah.
I've
got. You go, Danielle.
Simon.
No, you go. I've got one for dispatches in particular. But you go with yours.
Okay. Well, I'll give you a couple tips. So with nutrition, I'll give you the most important things you can do if you want the lowest hanging fruit. One is to just reduce added sugars in your diet. So that could be what you're drinking, what you're putting in your drinks, looking at food labels. So if you're looking at a food label, I always tell people, look for something with 5 grams or less per serving. And then the other thing, if you're looking at a food label, because it's really hard to eat nothing packaged, or to totally avoid packaged food. And so some of the tips that I use for that is, one, you just look at the ingredients. If it has 5 ingredients, or if it has more than 5 ingredients, and if any of those ingredients you can't pronounce and they're not food items, put it back on the shelf. Kind of a outlier to that is, though, if it's spices and things like that make it 10 ingredients, and that's okay. But in general, 5 ingredients or less, 5 grams of sugar or less per serving. If you're looking, especially like with breakfast cereals and things like that. And if you start looking at food labels and how much sugar is in, it's in everything. One of the guys in our pilot program was talking about, he didn't realize there was sugar in ketchup. And one of the things I say is, imagine, you get a burger, you get fries, and you have your ketchup. And then, by the time it's all said and done, you've eaten 3 teaspoons of sugar. Now, would you take sugar and drizzle that over your fries and your hamburger? And so, there's just choices you can make. Maybe find a ketchup without any added sugars. And so that's one thing. The second thing is just try to eat the rainbow. So in fruits and vegetables, and those colors in your fruits and vegetables that are called phytonutrients, those are like the most powerful little things ever. And they're like little disease fighters in your body. And so the more colorful fruits and vegetables you can get in your body during the day, I always tell people, try to create the rainbow on every plate. Then, you're adding years and healthy years to your life. You're reducing your cancer risk significantly, your cardiovascular risk significantly, diabetes risk significantly. You're helping your body to shed weight because, for many reasons, but those are kind of the 2 biggest nutrition tips I could give. And for sleep, I would say, just try to shut off all your electronics an hour before you go to bed, just as an experiment, and just see what happens with your sleep, you know. And then what do you do if you shut off all your electronics? Oh my God, what are you going to do? Well, you could, what kind of things, Simon? Read a book, stretch,
Read a book,
cuddle with your husband or your wife, cuddle with your dog or your cat. Yeah. Sure, people can come up with other ideas.
And I would add to that, Erin, that when you get to the end of your life, so whether the world ends in a big sort of flashbang or whether you just get to the end of your life, there is no prize for having been the person who slept less than anyone else in your life. Yeah. You just don't get a prize for that. So do yourself a favor and go to sleep. Like learn to honor and value sleep in your life and the role that it can play, because you literally don't get anything for cutting it out, except maybe disease and poor health. But let me give you my first dispatcher tip. So, Erin, I heard you say before that you're tethered to your phone, you're seated a lot of the time. Can get quite frustrating. Tell me, what's the biggest muscle in the human body?
I feel again.
Yeah, I think you're about to say it. You go with your gut. What were you about to say?
I was between the tongue and the brain. I don't know why.
Oh, okay. No, you weren't about to say it. So you have to come a fair way south to get to the biggest muscle in your body, which is actually in your butt. It's your glute. Your gluteus maximus, biggest muscle in the human body. So where you are right now, Erin, you're sitting down. You can squeeze your butt cheeks one by one at a time. So this is, because it's such a big muscle, you get such good bang for your buck in moving it. So when you're seated for a long period of time, you can literally sit there contracting your glute muscles one by one. Just squeeze and hold, let it go, squeeze and hold, let it go, squeeze and hold, let it go. And I'm doing it all the time I'm talking to you, and you probably can't even tell. And if you really want to have a lot of fun in your dispatcher room, share this with everyone else, and then have a competition to see if anyone can notice, looking around the room, who might be squeezing their glutes at any one point in time.
If I get dragged into HR because of you, I'm calling
you. This conversation never happened.
You guys can put the song on, I like big butts. That's what I was singing when Simon was asking.
Yeah, I could just see it on the news. Local 911 dispatch supervisor, sued for sexual harassment by telling her dispatchers to squeeze their butts. No, but not to dismiss it, though. Actually, it's fascinating. And I think I will find a way to subtly let them know, hey, this is something that you can do, and do make it a game without getting pulled into HR or my boss's office. So
yeah, don't get yourself sued.
Yes. Look, I'm doing it now. You can't even tell.
That's
maybe a little bit. So guys, I don't want to keep you here forever, although I could talk to you guys all day. And I would like to have you guys back on if you're willing to update us on the program and maybe get into some different side conversations. Like Danielle, let's talk more about nutrition and cancer prevention. I'd love to talk to you on that. And then Simon, I don't know what you want to talk about, but you have a cool voice and you're fun. I'll talk
to you about
planes.
Psychological capital.
Ooh, good topic.
Yeah. I've heard all of the mental health buzzwords this year. I've not heard about that one. So yeah, we'll sidebar later and we'll book it.
We'll do that next time.
Do you want to explain it really quick what it is?
Sure. So, psychological capital, just like any pool of capital, psychological capital is the pool of resources that you dip into to do what you need to do. So if you think about your bank account as financial capital, that's a pool of resources that you dip into to do what you need to do by way of, like buying a house, buying a car, going on vacation, whatever it might be. Psychological capital we dip into in order to help us get through the challenges of daily life. And the good news is that there are ways that you can invest in that capital account.
Okay, you and me later. So our time is coming to an end. Can you guys tell us how we can get a hold of you or learn more about the program?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can go to our website at www.firstinwellness.com. You can email us at info@firstinwellness.com. And those are probably the best ways to get a hold of us. Simon, you have any other ways?
No, that's all I was going to say. Website and email.
Yeah.
No carrier pigeon.
Yeah. If you feel like making a long distance trip, you're welcome to come out and see me here in Australia.
Challenge accepted.
Yeah, I was going to say, you and me, Erin, we're out there.
Yeah, let's go. I'm out. Let's go. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. I'll post all of the information about your program and also links to the resources that you did talk about, like the Aura Ring and the sleep device. What's it called again?
Eversleep.
Eversleep. Yes.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to get my husband one of those for sure.
Well, you can do a rental too by month. Yeah. So if they make it pretty inexpensive. Chris is one of the owners, is fantastic. They're a great group. Yeah. Oh, and I wanted to mention one other thing is there are some resources on our website. Like we have a free Stress Ninja kind of little mini ebook that it's a handout ebook, whatever you want to call it, that you can download for free. And then we also have a 3-week immunity boost program that will be coming out in the next couple of days. And that is going to be $25 in the month of March. And so that's basically to help boost your immune system for things like colds and flus and COVID. And also, reduce your risk for developing any chronic health conditions like cardiovascular disease and cancers and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, because that's a huge, what does I want to say? Concern for firefighters, especially because we can get into the whole like heart attacks versus cancer, especially with the retirees that are starting to filter in. But we could talk about that in a whole other podcast too.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you guys back here soon, and have a great night.
Thanks so much, Erin. Thanks for what you're doing.
Thanks, Erin.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.